the xTool P3 and Conveyor. This thing is big, this thing is powerful, it could do all kinds of things. So in this video, it's going to be a walkthrough of all the new applications of this new machine, what it can cut, the thickness, larger engravings, all kinds of applications. Use the timestamps if you want to skip on around. Spoiler alert, it's awesome. So if you haven't already learned about the P3, I do have a whole video that showcases everything. I really went all about it, a deep dive. So that full tutorial exploring this machine, it's amazing, big idea, it is crazy powerful, it is 80 watt CO2, it can cut all the acrylics, it can cut really thick stuff, it can cut thicker hardwoods, and I explored a lot of that. For this video, obviously there's a lot of other features and cool stuff that we'll get into, but for this video, we're really going to focus on this conveyor. So it's not just a pass-through, right? So some lasers have a pass-through where you can feed something through. It's an automatic conveyor. Now, xTool already had an automatic conveyor. They've had them for the S1 and the P2s. To be honest, I never used those because they felt a little bit more time consuming to do it. What's great about this one is once you install it, it just stays put, and a couple quick release, you can swap in and out to do conveyor. It's a lot more efficient. So this is their 2.0. It's got crazy features with the eye in the sky camera to really stitch everything together. Just so much advances. I left it like this, running in this space for like days. A whole weekend running with this big AP2 Max. No smoke, smelled nothing. So we're gonna jump in and showcase the conveyor and show all the good stuff. So here we have it, the conveyor with the P3. So first up, I am going to show you the setup. It is really simple. It's straightforward. You, of course, can use the timestamps if you want to skip on ahead. But here's just an overview so you get a kind of a feel for what it entails. What I love about it is the setup is simple, but really you can leave it as is on into the future. Really simple. So you're going to add in this part right here. This is the actual conveyor. This actually will live in here. You don't have to take it out. And just a couple screws, a couple things, magnetic plates to knock off. And then you just add in this roller bar. Now this is one thing that you might need to take out from time to time, as it might interfere if you're doing bigger things. There's these little smoke catchers on the front and the back. I was amazed at how much smoke it actually caught. So this actually works really well. But anyway, you can see that thing down below. That'll flip back up when not in use. But really easy install. But I slowed down for here just to show this thing, surprisingly, really effective. But then you have your rails. There are different rails. One's for the front, one for the back. It's really not hard to figure out which is which. Really simple, couple screws, get everything locked in place, and they just really conveniently notch in. There's a little, register point, and then it just slides on over. And then when you set it to whatever width you want, there's just some little screws in there that you just hand tighten. No need for, other drills or, screwdrivers, anything like that. No wrenches. So really simple. Back, the same idea. Just kind of lean it in and just rest underneath the P3 itself. Slides over, you're good to go. What's great about these rails is they can actually support a lot of weight. Previous designs and other systems, you really need a table. You have to rotate the whole thing to be able to support it. But this one, it all supports itself. And so just with those rails, you can do a lot of stuff. Here, we're going to talk a little bit more about the stitching, where the camera is feeding it. It's feeding through, and it's getting multiple passes to get a picture of the whole piece. This is not just a pass-through. And so, real time kind of does the filming for the whole thing. Here you can see this is from xTool's ad, their tiling preview. And there you can have it, right? And so you can go even longer. There's actually infinite length. We'll break that down a little bit later, but there's xTool's little promo. xTool also did acrylic. I did not find really giant acrylic, but this machine can cut acrylic. So if you wanted to do big, thick sheets of acrylic or do giant signs or bigger furniture, you could definitely do that. I know David Picciuto over at Make Something, he just did a video doing woodwork, doing big pieces. So I think there's a lot of applications there, with furniture parts. But here we go. We got a sheet. It's running. I went ahead and just did a little test score just to see how it went. Did a long line. Awesome. Really simple, really straightforward. You know, I did do some letters, I did do some small stuff. Pretty much, I kind of limited it to just the big things. But here you can see all that smoke in there. All of that smoke, it's getting trapped in there and it's getting sucked right out into that AP2 Max. Crazy powerful. You, of course, could use an inline fan. This is the other thing about the P3 is the camera views. So there's a side view and then there's a front view. There is so much upgrades. Normally with a new machine or an upgrade, there's a couple parts. There's just so much. It's not just the size and power. There's a lot of great new features that just improves efficiency here on the P3. So be sure to check out my other video to learn more about it and just all the applications. But here it is in use, the conveyor. You know, you can do all kinds of things. Different sheet goods from home centers. You can do big word walls, outlines, all kinds of things. And so I'm going to get into obviously, some really exciting projects, kind of showcase how much it can do, more sales ideas as well. So here I'm actually doing 1/2 inch plywood. Here again is that tiling preview. It's going, it's feeding it. This is 1/2 inch. I can feed larger wood. I can feed much thicker wood. But as far as cutting, I cut 1/2 inch plywood, no sweat. There, again, you see all that smoke? It's going right on out. It's so powerful. I don't even have the AP2 Max set to full. There, the smoke's not coming out there. This AP2 Max is incredible. I ran it in the garage like all day for a couple days. Ended up having the garage door closed inside, and I didn't smell any smoke anywhere. Just amazing, amazing upgrades there. So here I'm cutting a giant circle out of plywood. Basically a 24-inch diameter circle out of 1/2 inch plywood. I've got myself a giant blank. Yes, length for sure, but that 24-inch wide, so much. Clean, right? And so we'll explore a lot more, but let's talk a little bit more of applications. So obviously there's a lot of applications with this. Now some folks like myself with the old conveyors were like, okay, I mean, this is cool. You can do long things and that's great. And there's some applications. But for me, to be honest, it felt limited on, really how many things do I need to do that are super long? Well, obviously, we could do props. We can do really big stuff. It is on risers just so you could see it all. But this thing can keep going on and on. I think there are some great applications for larger signs if you have that kind of business that needs it. I don't think everyone is going to need the super long ones, and we'll get into what you need for the super long ones. But this right here, I think, is what a lot of folks will jump into. So this is 1/2 inch plywood, and I went ahead and I made myself a round. Now typically to get these really large rounds, the bed in itself, it's 18 inches by 36. Well, that's huge. That's a lot bigger than the P2 or P2S, a lot of other desktop models on the market. But with this, I have a 24-inch wide, so I can do a 24-inch diameter, thereabouts, maybe a little bit smaller, a really big sign. So a big sign like this, or you can see this one over here. So those really large signs, if you want to do logos, if you want to do, firehouse logos or, police station logos or whatever, clubs, big Boy Scouts troop, signs. There's so many giant signs, for nurseries, for man caves, for, vacation properties. Now for signage, you can go big. You were limited before and you could piece it together, but now you can cut the backer, the blank, and it's not 1/4 inch. This is 1/2 inch ply. It can even go a little bit thicker. In my last video, I talked about like poplar and some hardwoods, mostly softwoods. You can cut through even thicker. So, like let's say you wanted to laminate up, some pine or some fir or something like that. You can go up to 3/4 inch if you wanted to. But these big ones, you don't have to outsource these. You just grab your own sheet, get your sheet goods, go to your home center, have them rip it down for you to manageable sizes if you don't have a big saw, and then you're up and running. So this right here is half of a sheet of 4x8 plywood. I just went to Home Depot when I got it, and I can run an 8-foot board down here, and I could pop out a bunch of these rounds, batch out for signs, or different shapes like this if I wanted to do logos or other signs like so. But I think that is really why I think the conveyor is a great option. Cool art, cool other applications, but I think just everyday, more commonly ordered items large signs, definitely the way to go. So you can do that. So let's jump into some more really cool stuff. All right, here we have it, an 8-foot long board of some really high quality birch 1/2 inch plywood. It is just feeding it through just so. So it can feed thicker stock. You can definitely check out the link to get all the exact specs if you want to know exactly how big it can go. But here is the base for this giant nutcracker prop. Now you can go even longer. Now you can see at the end and the front, I did add extension. So if you're going to want to go really long, you are going to have some kind of table on the end for supports, or like I think in xTool previews, they just put the whole thing on the ground. But the built-in ones, it can go pretty far. I think it's like 5-ish feet is what they say. It can go without any of the added supports. So you can add the extra conveyor pieces to put on the end and back. You just have to kind of figure out how you can shim it up to make sure it's that right height. But if you want to do super long, then you are going to need those extra ones to do, like an 8-foot board like this. But I did it no sweat. You could go, I mean, they say infinite. You could keep going. You just need more of those rollers, more of those conveyors. So if you go on the website and like there's 2 different type of conveyors. One is the main, the other one are these other little ones that we'll put together. I'll show that in a bit. You can see it. But here I'm cutting out some more pieces. This is thinner stock. That's the 1/4 inch for this nutcracker. Then all these smalls, I decided to just cut them in the bed itself and not use the conveyor to risk it moving back and forth. But if I'm doing big stuff like this giant orca whale cutout, or the bigger things, conveyor makes so much sense. The smaller things, it just doesn't make sense to use the conveyor to maximize a big sheet, at least in my experience. And so here's that sign you saw a little glimpse of earlier. We cut out the big outline, the big shape on the conveyor, and now we're cutting out some of the smaller pieces in the bed. And I was actually able to cut out a ton of it because, again, it's a much bigger laser bed at 18 inches by 36 inches. So here's all these little smaller pieces to add on for the layered effect. Whenever I do layered signs, I like to use CA glue, Star Bond, and Activator. It's great. It's awesome. A lot of folks want to know. I'm not doing a full tutorial in this video. I will have more coming up, but just a couple little teases of, some of the tricks to do great signs. I get into that in a lot of my other videos. You can check the channel, but stay tuned. I got some more sign videos coming up soon. Love how this one turned out. Bigger, right? This is a much bigger sign. And again, like the different ideas I gave earlier, let's also give a shout out to the paint storage behind. Look at all those beautiful colors. Well, that storage, I actually cut those on the P3. So those bigger beds I was able to cut. I talked about that in that last video. But hey, another shout out for this bigger bed doing functional pieces. A lot of laser files. So here's the big nutcracker. Again, not going through all the tutorial here. I did use some outdoor glue, some weatherproof, waterproof wood glue where it comes in contact wood and wood. I'm using a pin nailer, just 23 gauges, just to make sure everything holds because this is eventually going to be outside a bit. So kind of a mix of all the things. But this just shows I can make something really, really large. So this is tall. I think it came in like a little over, 6.5 feet or so. You could make it even longer. So lots of options, big stuff possible. Here's a little orca whale that we can do. So again, there's a lot of things that you can do that are much larger. Signs, props, obviously Christmas decorations, got Halloween coming up. I think there's a lot of applications, but if you're in it for sales, lots of just custom sales art. But here's a little love for my nutcracker. And yeah, it was standing up there just so you could see it a little bit better. But let's talk a little bit more about software. So really quick, I want to show you the software. I'm not going to do a full dive here in the software. I actually have an upcoming video, will be a lot more on signs, lots of tips and tricks, and on the software. But if you're new to xTool, XCS, Creative Space, xTool, Creative Space, and now xTool Studio, it's amazing. It's so simple. It's so easy. So if you're in the laser world, it makes it really intuitive. If you're not, even easier. Take an image like this. You can edit, you can do all the things. But for the conveyor option, right, it's really simple. You just put in your piece and then you just hit this button. And that is going to go ahead and auto measure, and then it clamps the material. This button right here releases it. This is that feeder stitching, so that we saw earlier here. There's even like a video here to show you what's going on, and that's really what happens. And so if you have a unique piece or you're engraving and you want to avoid a knot or something or maximize, anyway, super awesome, super simple. All of the software. Again, we'll go more into the software in future videos, but I want to talk about design because I try and show this in a lot of my videos. So I want to talk about Creative Fabrica. This is a subscription. You do get 10 free downloads if you use my link down below, but you can recognize some of these files. So like one of these bundles, like this bundle right here, if I bought this on Etsy, this would be, you know, at least $3, maybe $4. All these different files. Well, with Creative Fabrica, if you, you know, $4 a month, you get unlimited downloads. So you can see a lot of these are ones from my videos that I've used, you know, all kinds of different things, the letters, just so much. I download, you know, probably hundreds of files a month, and you get unlimited downloads. And so great, it's awesome, and there's just a ton to choose from. Now, it's not just files, it's also fonts. And so if you're gonna do, you know, signs and you wanna have all kinds of crazy cool fonts, these are really simple to download and add into xTool Creative Space or xTool Studio. But lots of graphics. I mean, look at how many graphics. Just there's a ton of stuff. I use this for everything, and especially, you know, if you're looking at the P3, the conveyor, oh my gosh, there's just so much. There's so much. It definitely pays for itself end over end. So use that link down below. Get 10 free downloads. It is our affiliate link. We get a small commission, you know, on each sign up. So, but take a look. Pretty cool. Creative Fabrica. So we talked about making these big rounds. The other thing I didn't do for this project, right? We could do the big rounds like this, and then you could engrave directly. You could engrave and then you could cut, kind of like I did here with this mountain lion. So here, this is my mascot at the school I teach at. It's the mountain lions. It's named after John Muir, who is a mountaineer, right? So we got mountains. I could make this even bigger and I could have my school logo underneath, my name, you know, there's so many things. But making signs with engraving. So this, I love doing the layered, I love doing the painting. You of course could do this with acrylic, you could do this with hardwoods and all kinds of things, but I think just cutting, you know, thinner stock plywood from a home center and then painting it is a great look. Staining would look cool too. I've done that in a lot of my other videos. But I do want to talk about the engraving for just a little bit. So engraving, this is a, you know, a longer 8-foot board of vertical grain fur. It's lovely. And we got, you know, just, I did this in the XCS software. We'll talk a little bit more about software. Really simple, and it got a great results. Now engraving takes longer because this isn't a galvo laser, you know, from a fixed point that can go all the angles. It is a gantry moving back and forth. Well, the nice thing about the P3 is they did upgrade it. It can go up to 1200 millimeters per second as opposed to 600. So a lot faster. Now, obviously you're gonna mess around with your settings and you might not go all the way up to 1200, but some great results. I think this is a jaw dropper. I think this right here just gets some nice high quality, you know, 1/2-inch plywood. And you could do logos. Maybe a customer is not looking for all the colors. Maybe they want this look. You certainly, you know, there's other variations you can do with this, but I think this is a great look. And if you don't want to mess with the paint, this is just, you see this big board in here, right? This long sheet. You just throw this in, throw your design. You can batch these out like crazy. I think it's a great look. And so the engraving is great. It is great for cutting. It is obviously great for engraving. Now I will say with the layered signs, if you're gonna do a really intricate, like my videos, I have a lot of very intricate cut pieces. As you're going back and forth, you can add the tabs so it's not gonna fall through, but then you have to go back through and you have to cut out the different pieces. And so what I did for this project, and especially for these ones, is the big backer, like this, or you know, some of the big pieces where there's not lots of small ones, I cut with a conveyor, and then other ones I kind of piece together and put it in the bed because we have that big, you know, 18-inch by 36-inch bed. So like this give thanks sign right here, I did the backer with a conveyor. Everything else I just did in the bed, so I didn't have to worry about it as it went back and forth, and I didn't have to include tabs. So that's my recommendation for this, is if you're doing it, you can certainly cut out all kinds of things, but try and limit not too many small little pieces. Otherwise, it's gonna just take a little bit more time to remove all those tabs so it doesn't, you know, trip you up as it's feeding it back and forth, back and forth. So anyway, engraving, awesome. Cutting, awesome. All right, let's look at some more projects. And here's the engraving in action. So a rather large piece here on the conveyor. So the conveyor is moving through and it is engraving, right? And so I didn't mess around with the settings at all. Obviously, when it comes to lasers, you could get it dialed in even more for different effects. You could get family portraits on here. You could do all kinds of crazy big stuff. I think that could look really, really cool. But anyway, engraving, it worked great. And then it just cuts it out after the fact. This big cougar turned out great. Now, quick little tip, you do want to sand it after the fact. Just makes things cleaner, gets rid of any of the soot. This right here is the surf prep. I've shown this in a couple of my videos, but folks asked, so I do want to give a shout out. It's a great sander. It has foam pads, so there's lots of different foam attachments just to make sure you don't go too aggressive. It works great. The dust collector is amazing. There's no sawdust whatsoever. I do have an affiliate link down below to check it out, but I honestly, I had my eyes on it for years and years. I actually bought the dust collector with my own money. I buy the abrasives. Awesome stuff. All right, here I want to show you can adjust the size. So now I'm going to do, I don't know, this is about a 6-inch wide piece, 8 feet long. You're going to just go ahead and slide in those supports so it's, coming in contact. You don't want it to ride on one rail, at least off the main bed. And so it's really easy to adjust it. A little bit of adjusting, move everything over. And then again, because this is a super long one, I have these extra supports on the end. If this is a problem, right, you could move the thing onto the ground if you're doing super long stuff, but it's not too bad for the super long. So here's some more engraving. I didn't get the footage of it actually engraving it, but I think it turned out great. So you can engrave something super long. Think about growth charts, height charts here. Adding little spray lacquer. Anytime I do an engraved piece or wood, my favorite finish is just spray lacquer. I'll link these down below. Some of my other videos, I show some other processes if you're doing bulk and volume and you don't want to do the rattle cans, but this is great. It gives it a great protection. Also the best finish that I use. Love it. But look how great. That's clean. That's kind of just, some whatever plywood, 1/2-inch ply. So this one's a little bit thicker. You can see there, I didn't quite get my settings as dialed in and just kind of popped it out. But anyway, awesome. And then here, you could, of course, engrave it much deeper if you wanted to. You can do long signs in wood. Engraving, really simple. This is from my last video. I did these individual letters. You saw in this Creative Fabrica, that's where I got the files for those. But think about those. You could put it on a bigger one like this. So I did these smaller signs. But if you want to do the word art, you can do the really long ones, kind of like the xTool promo where they showed, these other ones here. You could do them much bigger. You could do giant signs with the letters and kind of do the, Anyway, we'll get into that in some future videos. I think there's a lot more, word signs and customization there. But just a closer look at some of these projects that we did using the conveyor here on the P3. Of course, check out this video for so much more on this awesome new machine. Well, there you have it, a closer look at this P3 and the automatic conveyor. Amazing. Lots more. So many more projects coming with this unit, so stay tuned. If this video did add value, consider subscribing to see a lot more videos. Obviously a lot more on, tips and tricks, a lot more tutorials. This one we are showcasing machines and what they can do and some really cool new stuff, but lots of other cool stuff coming, tutorial style. But if you are interested in this machine, right now, best price, get it while the prices are low, while they have their sales. The conveyor is incredible, but like you saw before, even without the conveyor, you can go so much bigger than you used to before. And so still some pretty large projects. But anyway, use this link. Consider using our affiliate link. You do get a bigger discount. It also supports my family. We get a small commission, helps us make these kinds of videos, make content like this. You can also just learn more about it, or you can check out that other video to learn more about the P3. What else do you want to see with the P3? Obviously, I'm going to do a lot more with hardwoods and showcasing some thicker stuff and the thicker things it can cut. Other applications, what this machine enables you to do. Some crazy cool stuff. Stay tuned. Really excited. Well, thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.